Hey, I want to do a quick intro before we launch in today's episode. First, a little bit about this episode. Kyle and I had the opportunity to do a live stream with Bleacher Report. Today's episode will be that. It'll be that re-uploaded. They gave us some topics they wanted to talk about, and we were framing that episode a little more general audience, a little bit more casual audience than we normally would. So if you're looking for some nitty-gritty, detailed, super nerdy Ohio State stuff, maybe not going to be your episode. So they gave us topics. They wanted to ask, they wanted us to discuss, is Ryan Day on the hot seat? They wanted us to discuss, which, by the way, we immediately just said no to. And then we tried to sort of discuss why some people might feel that way, but you'll see the episode. You'll see the episode. Second thing they wanted us to talk about was the quarterback competition. Now, if you've been watching the Sloopcast all summer, you know, Kyle and I really don't think there's a lot to the quarterback competition. We definitely think it's going to be, you know what, watch the episode. You'll figure it out. So we pivoted away from like, is Ryan Day on the hot seat, to talking about why we think it's a silly conversation to say that he is on the hot seat. They wanted us to talk about the quarterback competition. We pivot away from that pretty quickly as well, because we don't really think that's much of a discussion point. And then we basically went on to talk about our expectations for Kyle McCord this season. And then past that, we started talking about like basically key players for the season. So, you know, it's who we think, you know, where we think the strengths of the team is, where we think the potential weaknesses of the team is, and just some notable playmakers. And again, this is aimed at a more general audience. So if you have family, friend, uncle, brother who is just like looking for an intro into the season from a more casual perspective, send them this episode. I think it'll be a good catch up, a good introduction into where we expect Ohio State to be good and not good, and all the preview stuff heading into the season. So I think it's a great intro for the more casual fans, which I think is something that we and everyone else in the Ohio State sort of podcast sphere don't always do a great job catering towards. So I think that's how we decided to approach this episode. So we're going to go ahead and kick it over to that episode, and I'm going to do one more wraparound at the end of the show. So once that episode is all done, I'm going to be back over here. So just keep an eye out for me there. And I'm going to kick it over to myself, I guess. Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast, I guess, or welcome to this Bleacher Report stream. We're doing an Ohio State preview. Hey, gangland. Only saying hi to Kyle. Very typical. We're going to vamp here for a second. Let people roll into the stream. You know, I wish to go like back to like Twitch stuff. Kind of wish I had like a going live stream, a going live page all of a sudden, but that's okay. We're figuring this out. Hey, gangland said hi to me too.
That's a first.
Will, if you're still listening, which I know you are, Gangland's one of our mods over in the Discord server. So if he says anything rowdy, it's okay.
All right, so hey Jared, we're getting close. We actually just found out just moments ago. We are
don't do math.
Today is the 28th week. Don't do math. We're like 9-10 days away from the infamous hotel check-in day.
The velvet rope, or should I say the scarlet rope, We have our favorites. Yeah, Gangland's one of our favorites. These are facts. So yeah, we're doing a bit of a Ohio State preview here. I think what we're attempting to do in this episode is to, and I want to know, I just want everyone to know, I don't mean this derogatorily. That's a great way to start this. Wow. But no, I'm just saying, like, I think this is a good catch up for casuals. How is he on the hot seat? We will get there, I promise. Middlebrook, only idiots think he'll be fired. Hey guys, we'll get there, I promise. What we are, I think what we're trying to do here is to do a bit of a preview for casuals. This would be a great stream, maybe something to send out to people who don't like maybe follow it every single day, don't follow every single recruit, every single camp update. So hot seat is a bit of a stretch. Will, you're getting us in trouble with the topics. You're digging us a hole, buddy. Missed field. Okay, you know what? Let's just get into it. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat? Let's see. Chest Rockwell says a missed field goal away from playing for a national title. Only dumbasses think he should be fired. Mr. Rockwell, can I call you Mr. Rockwell? I 100% agree. I 100% agree with you. And by the way, I'm actually going to take it a step further. I don't think they were a missed field goal away from playing for the national title. I believe they were a missed field goal away from winning the national title. Why will he keep his job? Because he's unreal at his job. I am appreciating the amount of Ryan Day love I am seeing in the chat. Why is this even being discussed? I'll tell you why. Because he's lost to Michigan twice in a row, and there is a small but vocal portion of the fan base who is not happy. You can't lose to Michigan at Ohio State. Ryan Day is safe. I agree with you. We are a pro Ryan Day stream here, but the chatter is out there. The chatter's out there. I mean, when was the last? Are upset.
When was the last time Ohio State lost 2 in a row to that team up north? It's been over 20 years. So I can't blame for people wanting to question Ryan Day and like, oh, he's in the hot seat and all that. But yeah, I think everything, you look at everything else that Ryan Day is doing here, you look at the recruiting, outstanding job recruiting, bringing in great talent here. He's pretty much dominating vast majority of his games here. And like, I see some people in the chat here, just a field goal away going to the national title there. I personally don't think he's in the hot seat now. What happens if he loses a 3rd straight year to Michigan? Then we can start talking about Ryan Day being on the hot seat. But I think 2 in a row here, yeah, let's pump the brakes for another year, and then we can talk about Ryan Day being on the hot seat.
T. Drilly says, "Bro can't beat Michigan. Fire that bum." See, there's at least some in here who are that vocal, very vocal, but minority of people who believe that. One more to UM and he's gone. But okay, I'm gonna call you Gut, TG Gut. What if they lose to Michigan this year? Go to the playoffs, win the national title, which is totally plausible. Totally plausible. Nah, he's gone with one more. Oh, he's not gone with one more loss. That's my question to you. Everyone is like, if he loses to Michigan, he's done. If he's losing to Michigan, he's done. If he's losing it, okay. What if he loses to Michigan and win the title? Are you going to fire him? Don't be so absolutist. You don't got to be so absolutist. He would. He would have to lose 4 or 5 games, including a blowout loss to Michigan, to even consider firing him. I agree with you.
And then
Mr.
here's
hey,
the
Mr.
next
Rockwell, come join the Discord server. I like what you have to say about things. Discord.thesloopcast.com. By the way, we're the Sloopcast. Hi, everybody.
Here's the next question then. For those people that's wanting Ryan Day fired, who are you going to put? Who are you going to put in replace of Ryan Day? I mean, there was a lot of talks about people really loving Fickle. Fickle's in Wisconsin and loving it right there too.
He's like, if the mothership called, Fickle would come home.
You're right.
There is only first off, again, pro Ryan Day. I am Ryan Day's biggest fan. Period. Right? Like it's like me and his wife in that order. I am Ryan Day's biggest fan. The only guy, if someone said to me, hey, but we know 100% we can get Mike Vrabel, that's about it that would even like interest me. Other than that, getting fired. Who thinks that? Alec, a couple people in this chat think that. I disagree with them. I'm on your wavelength, Alec. I Ryan Day's job is safe. His players all love him. I agree. I think he's hot take. Urban Meyer wouldn't last in this era of college football, which feels like a weird thing to say because he was coaching in college football not that long ago. He would just straight up not work, right? Or Urban Meyer straight up not work in today's. We have no. Oh, okay. Hey, Kyle, feel free just to ignore T. There. I think he's just trolling. He's just being intentionally outrageous. And by the way, I encourage everyone in the chat to do the same.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. Like, or not Ryan Day, Urban Meyer's offense, it's the running the quarterback to the ground there. And yeah, it just doesn't work with the type of roster Ohio State has right now, where it's a very, very aggressive offense here. And you get a lot of other players chance to get the ball and work some magic here. And we've seen that, especially with Brian Hartline in the wide receiver core here.
Agro 83 asks, why wouldn't Meyer Day work? I guess I didn't complete that thought. Thanks for keeping me honest. Ryan Day learned from Meyer. Yeah, he absolutely learned from Meyer. Because I think as much as we're thankful for Urban Meyer for what he elevated this program to, I think we all need to take our Ohio State hats off maybe for just a moment and kind of acknowledge that he's not the nicest person. And I think that in many ways he led the players through fear. And I think in the age of the transfer portal and in the age of NIL, where players are more empowered than they ever were before, I think that you would see a lot of people jumping ship from Ohio State under Urban Meyer, given the current environment. It's not totally the NFL, but you saw what happened when he tried to go in there and do his tough guy stuff in the NFL to a bunch of adult players, and they all just laughed at him and turned on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. Ohio State loses 2 to 3 games this season. That would be a failure. If we want to talk about, we'll get the season expectations later. I think maybe, Kyle, we pivot into the quarterback competition.
Yeah, absolutely. We get to see a new quarterback here after CJ Stroud took the field for 2 years here, and definitely a lot of question about who's going to be that quarterback here. Well, I think Jared and I both agree. I don't really believe there is a quarterback battle here. I think the decision's already been made here, and I fully expect Kyle McCord to be that starter. And I think the question should be, is there who's going to be the quarterback, but rather what's the expectation for Kyle McCord for this year?
Yeah, I think that's the more, because I have people. I know people. Been doing this for a while now. I know people. Everything I've heard was that McCord was already sort of pulling away during the competition in the spring. On top of that, it was his to lose. He has extra time in the system. All due respect to Devin Brown, who I like and who I think will be an excellent quarterback. Probably somewhere else, if I'm being honest. Because I do think Kyle McCord's going to have a good year and then come back. That is my prediction. To me, you're going to see Kyle McCord win this job. He was already winning the job. And then Devin Brown got hurt. Like, can we talk for a second that Devin Brown got hurt? Didn't participate in the spring game. I don't know. I don't see this. This is a competition in name only, in my opinion. This Kyle McCord's job.
Yeah, agreed here. So
time in the system is key, says Gangland. I agree. McCord going to be Haskins style distributor quarterback.
That is high expectations.
I'll take that. I'll 100% take that.
I definitely would as well. But looking at the past 4 quarterbacks here in their first year as quarterback, CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, and JT Barrett, average of those 4, you're looking at probably about a 3,500 yard season, about 40 to 45 touchdowns in the air. If that's the expectation for Kyle McCord, those are some really high numbers to try to meet.
Dwayne Haskins,
again, the last 4 quarterbacks in their first year at Ohio State, that's the average there.
Right. It's high expectations, but like, and I'm going to say, what is that? I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I'm going to call you Hayne down in the chat there. Why does no one talk about McCord and Harrison being high school teammates? Because you beat me by 30 seconds. That's why. Because you got there 30 seconds before I did. That's why. I think that's an excellent point. They already have a relationship. Kyle McCord, and someone can fact check me on this, was like the 25th overall player in his recruiting class, like a solid 5-star quarterback. I want to say like in the top 30 in his class, overall player, maybe like the 2nd or 3rd quarterback in his class. Like, first time Jared didn't get somewhere prematurely. Hey, Gangland, we're being professionals today.
Yeah,
we're being professionals today, Gangland.
If we're looking at 24/7, yeah, he was 49th nationally, 8th overall quarterback.
Is that the composite or is that the proper?
That's the proper. There was no composite there, but
what do you mean there was no composite there?
I don't know. That's what 24/7 has. Either way, we're moving on, Jared.
Okay, we're moving on. We're moving forward. The expectations are high for Kyle McCord. They're incredibly high for Kyle McCord. I'm not saying he has to be Dwayne Haskins. I know someone said that in the chat. I don't think he has to be quite. Dwayne Haskins had inarguably the best single season. I'll say arguably the best single season for an Ohio State quarterback of all time.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. He almost threw for 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns in the air there. Yeah, that is very, very hard to beat. Especially with all the weapons that is around Kyle McCord this year. Look at, I know everybody looks at the wide receiver room, and rightfully so, how stacked Ohio State is, but let's not forget how stacked the running back room is. A
Yeah.
lot of people really forget about last year, about how Ohio State couldn't really run at times, but Ohio State at certain points were down their third, their fourth running back, and then had to go into their fifth running back.
They bring in linebackers
to get some carries here.
And now, linebackers and wide receivers playing running back last year.
Yeah, I mean, you had Xavier taking snaps as well at one point as well. But if you got a healthy running back room here, it wouldn't really surprise me if Kyle McCord's numbers aren't as high compared to the last four quarterbacks at Ohio State. If the running back room stays healthy, he doesn't need to throw. Looking at C.J. Stroud's first year, throw for 441 attempts in his first season there.
Yeah, and I think what will be hugely beneficial, and we can talk about the defense in more detail later, but it will be incredibly helpful that I think, I don't think he's going to have to like take over football games, especially early on. I don't think he's going to have to take over football games. I think the defense is going to be vastly improved. He has the best safety blanket in the entire country with Marvin Harrison. As we've already discussed, they have long-standing chemistry. Haynes says, two biggest questions aren't McCord for me. It's the defense can be elite and if Day can win the big game. Well, for Day to win the big game, I think you're right. But the question isn't, can he win the big game? It's, can he fix the reason why he wasn't able to win the big game? Which brings to me that my number one with a bullet concern with this team this year is the offensive line. It is the one we can talk. The wide receivers are amazing and they're deep, and the running backs are amazing and they're deep. Got more tight ends than we could possibly know what to do with. The defensive line, we'll talk about the defense in a little bit more detail later. The defensive line is insanely deep. I think the defense will be fine. Offensive line scares the living hell out of me.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here soon, but back to Kyle McCord though. So what's your expectations for Kyle McCord this year? Like what's a realistic expectation from him that you would like to see?
Like statistically?
Yeah. Let's do statistically.
I think you could look at CJ Stroud's first year as a good benchmark. CJ Stroud threw for 72%. That would be hard to get to.
Not even Dwayne Haskins through that completion.
But like 4,400 yards, 44 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, nothing much at all in the rushing game. But like, let's say expectations, 69% completion percentage. Nice. 4,400 passing yards and 44 touchdowns. Again, using the CJ Stroud redshirt freshman year, but freshman year as a mark. And I say that knowing that CJ Stroud was literally just the second overall pick in the country. But Kyle McCord, I think, has a better crew around him. As far as the team as a whole, the wide receivers around CJ Stroud were insane. CJ Stroud probably has a better tight end in that. I'm actually starting to back off that a bit. And here's why. I think CJ Stroud had a better offensive line. He had equally good wide receivers. But also I think CJ Stroud had to put up numbers sometimes because the defense was not fantastic at that point. I would like for Kyle McCord to not have to put up stupid numbers because I'd like for the defense to put games away more this year.
Yeah, and I don't really think he needs to. I think Kyle McCord trying to match what CJ Stroud his freshman year, I think you should look at more of like Justin Fields' first year. About 3,300 yards, 41 touchdowns, 67% completion. I think those numbers is more realistic for Kyle McCord, just because, again, if the running back crew stays healthy, yeah, he's not going to pass that much. So I think if he does the numbers that Justin Field did his freshman year, I think Ohio State will do well.
This is
yes.
Yeah. If we're comparing to like Justin Fields and CJ Stroud, I think it's worth noting Fields was in his second year. CJ Stroud was in his second year. This would be McCord's third year. And I do think that's incredibly helpful, especially over Justin Fields, in that, Fields hardly had any time at Ohio State comparatively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns should be the floor, says Esquire. I think that's fair. I think that's to say that's like minimal expectation. I think those are good numbers, Esquire. I agree.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think this is a good point here. I know there was a lot of questions here talking about the defensive sides, the safeties, and offensive line. So I think we should
want to switch the graphic over to the. Oh, you were already doing it. Jeez, I should
already
have trusted
doing
you.
it.
I should have trusted you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about the expectations for Ohio State. I mean, it goes without saying the expectation is every year at Ohio State it's win a national title. But let's look deeper into that though, and what can we expect in this season, and what are you looking for in the season here? I know Jared has always been a big person in looking at the trenches, especially the offensive line this year, which is, and I agree with Jared, it's probably the biggest concern leading into the season is that offensive line. Like we don't have a definitive who those starting five are. Now we have a really good guess in who it's really going to be here, but
it's not been announced. Much like Kyle McCord, it hasn't been announced, but I feel pretty confident in saying who I think the starting five are. I do think Josh Fryer will be the left tackle. I do think that Josh Simmons, the San Diego State transfer, will be the right tackle. Matt Jones will be the right guard. Donovan Jackson will be the left guard. You can have maybe a bit of a controversy, a bit of a position battle at the center position. It could be Carson Hinsman. It could be Jacob James. I'm personally going to go with Hinsman, but I wouldn't be shocked if the more senior James wins it. Who do you predict will be the tackles? Josh Fryer at left and Josh Simmons, the San Diego State transfer, at right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is, I mean, Ohio State's got to figure this out here, because with all the talent that they have, the wide receivers, tight ends, running back, without a solid offensive line, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything if you can't.
Doesn't matter
if you got the defensive side come in past the line of scrimmage and get in the backfield.
This is my analogy for this. Doesn't matter how good the driver is. Doesn't matter how many horses are underneath the hood. If you don't have good tires, you're not going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Your offensive line are your tires. They're your road graders. I don't care how good Kyle McCord is or isn't. I don't care how healthy Travion Henderson and Evan Pryor are or aren't. I don't care how amazing Marvin Harrison is, even though we all know he's literally the best player in the country. None of that matters if the offensive line is garbage. And for the record, I don't think it'll be garbage. I do think it'll struggle early in the season.
And that's why it's good that Ohio State doesn't play Notre Dame week 1 or 2. It's week 4.
That is helpful. That is very helpful. I know there was some angst in the chat about that. It is very helpful that it's early.
But yeah, it looked like Zach asked how will we be effective against Notre Dame in week 4? And is it good we get to warm up before that game? Well,
there you go.
Yes. Yeah, we just answered that last part, but how effective will we be here? Yeah, it's definitely going to be a battle. I mean, you're on the road over at Notre Dame there. It's going to be a hostile environment. It's good. It's going to be a battle, but I trust Ryan Day and that he'll get the team ready and get the job done.
These are the good back-to-back comments here. Esquire says, if I recall correctly, 2014 started with a pretty questionable O-line and they figured it out. Then Gangland says, I hope there's not a Virginia Tech slip-up. Hey, I'll take a Virginia Tech slip-up. If it ends in the same way, I'll take it. Listen, if Notre Dame, and by the way, Notre Dame 2023 is monumentally better than Virginia Tech 2014. Just let's say that right off the top. But if losing to Notre Dame is a galvanizing moment that brings the team together and yada, 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 low point in the script, got to save the cat, 60-minute mark being the no turning point, losing to Notre Dame, I'll take it. If that's what it takes, I'll take it. I'm not sure. Listen, I want to win a national title and I want to beat Michigan. If losing to Notre Dame happens along that way, I don't care. I almost cussed. I'm being professional today.
Yeah, and let's play devil's advocate here. Ohio State loses a close one in Notre Dame. Let's just say hypothetically here. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean a lot as a season as a whole, because you can still win the Big Ten and play in the playoffs still. But yeah, I don't think it means as much. But I mean, if you're dominant, if you're dominant in that game or you lose significantly, then that's a big deal, though.
Is Notre Dame still homeless in terms of conferences for now?
For now. Night at Wisconsin from Buckeye Esquire. Night at Wisconsin is my concern for the potential slip-up game.
Yeah.
Jared and I have always said this for as long as we've been
since Iowa and Purdue.
Since we've been doing our podcast here, playing a night game. Well, I don't know if Wisconsin's in a night game, but let's just say it is. And playing a night game in the Big Ten West is always concerning. But then again, that was under Urban Meyer. I mean, have we had any really slip ups under Ryan Day in the West Division? No, we haven't.
Say what you want to say about Ryan Day. How many winnable games has he lost since taking over as the head coach? I mean, not winnable. Winnable is the wrong word to use there. How many expected games? How many games? I'm talking like Urban Meyer lost to Virginia Tech. Urban Meyer lost to Purdue. Urban Meyer lost to Iowa. Have we seen Ryan Day drop a game that they absolutely should have won?
There's one game that I can think of, Jared, and that was 2 years ago, if you remember, in Columbus,
Oregon.
Late A. Mm-hmm.
It's still Oregon.
I think they should have won. I think they should have won.
Yeah, they're the better team. They should have won, but still, it was Oregon. 2019 Clemson. No, but those are good football teams. That's not the point. I'm talking about losing to Toledo or Virginia Tech, or Appy State, losing a game like that. Wisconsin is a night game. How late in the year is that? Is that October? Like late October or early October? I forget.
It is. I think it's late October. I have to.
Yeah, that's concerning. By that time it'll be nice and dark.
October 28th. Yep.
Would you rather have Urban resume of losing easy games on games, or the day of not beating big teams? Urban Meyer also lost to big teams.
I mean,
they failed to score any points against Clemson.
Yeah, he didn't score. Yeah, 0-30 on the first time he played Clemson. Yeah, well, second time, but first time in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's not an either or, unfortunately. To me, it's frustrating when you lose a game that you absolutely should win.
Yeah.
To Ryan Day's credit, he's only lost games to teams with relatively equal talent. Relatively equal talent is the only games he lost. Again, to Kyle's point, if you want to stretch that a bit, you could maybe say Oregon. Because I do.
But so Oregon loss, it still looks better than Purdue or
Virginia
some of the
Tech
other losses. Or even Michigan State. That don't know why we didn't hand the ball off more often, but
that was Tim Beck. That was Tim Beck's fault. I'm still putting that 100% on Tim Beck. I'm giving Urban Meyer. Well, Urban Meyer hired Tim Beck, so maybe I'm not giving Urban Meyer a pass on that.
Yeah. All right. I know there was a lot of questions here about the defense. Yeah, defense.
Thought he lost to Purdue. Urban Meyer lost to Purdue.
Urban did. Yeah.
We're talking about Ryan Day.
Yeah, the defense here, though, Jared. A lot of maybe a lot of expectation last year with Knowles coming in and completely redoing the defense, and everything is going to be fixed. And he fixed a lot of things. No, is it perfect? No, you're not going to come in and fix all the things that was wrong with the defense in 1 year. Made great changes, and I think we'll continue seeing a good improvement in this defense here. The defensive line, solid. One of the deepest defensive line group that we've seen at Ohio State here. I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching this defensive line just feast on throughout the season.
Yeah, it's if we're talking specifically the two deep, one of the deepest Ohio State defensive lines we've ever seen. Definitely in the conversation. Love the shirt, Jared. Thank you, Zach. This may or may not be available at merch.thesloopcast.com. I don't remember if Ohio State falsely copyright claimed this or not. JT Tuimoloau, and then behind him is Caden Curry. Caden Curry would be Oregon losses on Kerry Combs. You're not wrong. But once again, just like with Tim Beck, they hired Kerry Combs. So behind Tuimoloau, you have Caden Curry, who would be starting at 10, 11, 12 Big Ten schools. Caden Curry's great. He's a true sophomore.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they'll get to use him much this year. You have Tyleik Williams and transfer from Ole Miss, Tywin Malone at the 3-tech defensive tackle. Tyleik Williams has shown explosiveness at times. He's been disruptive at times. I think what we need to see from Tywin Malone as a junior is consistency. He's lost some weight. They say he's in better shape. This has been like his big mature year as far as like maturing into an adult and yada, 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 and doing all the little things right. And, all those familiar storylines that typically lead to improved play. So yeah, Tyleik has always been explosive and he's always shown greatness. Can he get over the hump and be consistent? I think is the big thing there. Mike Hall is by many people's assumption, by many people's analysis, a potential top 15 pick in the NFL draft. in 2024. He was backed up at nose tackle by Ty Hamilton, who is an absolutely solid nose tackle. He's not going to be as disruptive as Mike Hall. He's not going to be as Mike Hall just needs to stay healthy. I mean, that's yeah. Absolutely. He's not going to be as disruptive as Mike Hall. He's not going to be as involved in like the pass rush as Mike Hall, but Ty Hamilton is still an incredibly solid player who is going to eat up blocks in the run game and in the pass game. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's what you need out of that player. At the weak side defensive end, you have Jack Sawyer, who's going to be solidly at defensive end again. No more standing up, no more jack position, no more like he's going to be a defensive end this year. And I think that's a good call. And
I think we'll see a lot more action. We'll see a lot more, I guess, stats from Jack Sawyer this year. He was very disruptive last year, but you look at his stats, it didn't really back it up, but he definitely was. And I think with him being down, on the ground there, we'll see him convert some of those disruptives into actual sacks and tackle for losses and all that.
Yeah.
So the linebackers though, Jared,
real quick, Kyle, behind him, I think you have a decent position battle to see who is going to get more snaps at the weak side defensive end in you know, for when Jack Sawyer leaves the field. Kenyatta Jackson and Amari Abor. Two incredibly talented defensive ends. It'll be interesting to see, you know, who's the first onto the field in relief of Jack Sawyer.
Okay. All right. So I think the rest of the defense here, I think the only question would be the safeties here, but you get another year under Knowles, and it's I think we'll see a drastic improvement in this defense here. So I don't have any hesitations or any concerns here. So
yeah, I've never felt this confident going. Well, not never, but it's been a few years since I felt this good about the linebackers going into the season. Kyle, I am getting a wrap up signal. So cornerbacks, I feel great about the cornerbacks. You have, Denzel Burke, who had a great second half of the year last year, struggling early on. You add David Igbinosa, a redshirt freshman transfer, true sophomore from Ole Miss. Safeties are a bit of a mess. There's a lot of good players. I don't know who's playing where and how. So that's the most up in the air, but they have tons of talent. So I'm not really that worried about it. It's just sort of what pieces are they putting in the puzzle there? Kyle, I think now would be a good time to let everyone know who we are. I think the defense is going to be elite, top 10 in the country. Yeah, they will need to stay healthy in certain spots to achieve that, because they're not super deep everywhere on the defense. But if they stay healthy, I agree. All right. Kyle, we're the Sloopcast.
We're the Sloopcast. Check us out on the social medias. Just search for @Sloopcast. You'll find us there.
Screw social media. Join the Discord server, discord.thesloopcast.com.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining, and excited for the season to come.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. This is normally where I'd introduce some ending music for the show, but I don't think we're going to do that on the Bleacher Report app. Again, find us on YouTube. We're a part of Buckeye Huddle, so you can find us on the Buckeye Huddle YouTube channel. You can find us on our own YouTube channel, just @Sloopcast. I've abandoned Twitter, so you can find me on there, but don't. Just join the Discord server. Come hang out with us. We're a fun-loving group of Buckeye fans willing to talk some smack all year round. Actually, it's not just an on-season thing. So, with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support local podcasters. Peace out, everybody. Hey, everybody. Jared here, back with you. I told you I'd be back at the end of the episode. So want to do some quick recruiting updates. A couple recruiting items happened. And not that they wanted us to talk about recruiting in the Bleacher Report stream, as you could tell, we kept that very casual. But the couple recruiting updates since that episode was recorded. The absolute biggest being that Aaron Scott chooses Ohio State over Michigan. Oregon was also on the table, but we all know it was between Ohio State and Michigan. I think Kyle and I have not wavered in our confidence that we felt like we felt like Aaron Scott was going to come to Ohio State. We've been doing a mock class every month for the past several months, and Aaron Scott was in every single one of them. As you know, I think we sort of stuck fast on that, and it's not to say that I don't think it was a real conversation to have. It absolutely was. He was legitimately entertaining, thinking about considering going to Michigan. I'm not suggesting otherwise, but we always sort of stayed very confident in the fact that we felt like he was coming to Ohio State. So the second big item in regards to recruiting news would be that Ohio State received a commitment from Chris Henry Jr. If you might remember that his dad was a wide receiver whose life ended too early. For the Cincinnati Bengals, he is class of 2026. So if you're wondering why, Jared, you've never really talked about Chris Henry's son potentially committing to Ohio State, class of 2026. This is our first mention of the class of 2026 on the Sloopcast. So I am not surprised that he ends up choosing Ohio State. I kind of had that somewhere in the back of my head somewhere, but I think everybody is probably pretty surprised about the timing of it. I don't think anyone saw it happening this early. I think some people see a commitment that early and they kind of start to think like, oh, well, surely he won't stay committed that entire time. But like, grew up in Ohio, wants to play in Ohio. He's in Ohio. It feels like hey, I just want to play for Ohio State and be done with it. I don't want to do the recruiting thing and yada, yada, yada. Makes a lot of sense. I don't think, it's obviously a long, long time before his initial signing day, but I feel pretty confident that we don't have to worry about Chris Henry in that regard. The third big recruiting item would be that Ohio State received a commitment for punter. That's right, a punter. His name is Joe McGuire. He is from the the Pro Kick Australia Academy, who has put a lot of punters into both college football and the NFL in recent years, including several Ohio State players. So obviously, we're a long way removed from the Jim Tressel era at this point. I don't know if anyone's getting like excited about punters necessarily, but bring another Aussie in, right? You need a punter. You can't beat equal teams without a good punter. Not most of the time anyway. So obviously an important pickup. And I lied. There's actually a fourth big recruiting item. Ohio State had 2 players committed in the 2025 class. A defensive back named Jonte Gilbert was one of them. He is decommitted. I'm just going to be real with everybody. I don't really know enough about Gilbert or the 2025 class and where Ohio State sits with a bunch of different safeties and corners and all that at this point to know if I should be upset by this or not. Like I'm still sort of I'm focused on the season coming up, and I'm focused on the 2020, wrapping up the 2024 class. I don't have a strong opinion. Gilbert, an incredibly highly rated player. So it's obviously not a good thing that he decommits, but I am not in a place yet where I I'm not in a place yet where I feel like this is some sort of horrible news. And then again, that's no disrespect to Gilbert. He's a very highly rated player. But it's just, you know, when the out of state kids commit this early, you always kind of have to keep it in the back of your head that it's always a bit tenuous. And that's where we're at right now. So speaking of finishing up the 2025 class, the 2024 class, couple just quick notes now that Adam Scott has officially joined the class. One, and these are in order. How Ohio State needs to finish this class for it to be, in my mind, a truly successful recruiting class. One, they need to bring in another, like, preferably true offensive tackle type player into this into this roster. A true offensive tackle. And, you know, we talked in our, if you want us to talk about like a bunch of different options, who they might have at that, we did the episode, name of that episode was New Mock Plus just a couple of weeks ago. You can go listen to us talk about it in detail there, who, you know, potentially that could be, but they need another true offensive tackle into this recruiting class. They are in really good position at defensive end with Houston and Dylan Stewart, Edric Houston and Dylan Stewart. They need to, at the very least, finish the job with one of them. I feel like Edric Houston feel pretty solid there. Dylan Stewart is, I feel confident, but not as confident, if that makes sense. You absolutely have to bring Houston in. And if you don't bring in Stewart, you need to bring in someone else of, you know, near caliber. There aren't a lot of defensive ends at Stewart's caliber, but you have to, you need to bring in Houston plus like a real pass rush, edge rush, defensive end type like Dylan Stewart, preferably Dylan Stewart. I don't think the class is going to fall apart to be a failure if you don't get Stewart in this class, but if not him, someone like him. Number 3, they need to get a second top shelf safety. You know, we are all hoping, we are all wanting that to be KJ Bolden. He's who commits August 5th. So we should have an answer on that fairly soon. I don't feel great about that. I am still leaning Georgia as far as my opinion for KJ Bolden, although I don't think Ohio State's out of it, for the record. But I am still leaning Georgia there. So if not Bolden, then, you know, Peyton Woodyard is still out there. Zaquan Patterson is still out there. Get one of those 3 players, preferably Bolden, but get one of those 3 players. And I think we're on our way to shoring up this class. The last item, they need to get a second solid defensive tackle. They need a second solid defensive tackle. There's a bunch of different guys who that could be. You could look at like Ernest Willer Jr., Dominic McKinley, Aiden Breland. There's a couple other guys out there. Nigel Smith. Need a second defensive tackle of a second high quality defensive tackle. And I think anything past those items, I think anything else is icing. You know, we're still really hoping that Ohio State can add like Kobe Black to the cornerback class. You know, you're hitting for a home run with Kobe Black, and maybe you get him and maybe you don't. Obviously you want them, but the recruiting class doesn't become some sort of huge failure without him. Same thing with Jeremiah McClellan, wide receiver. Felt like he was like in Ohio State's pocket for a minute. Now we're not quite as sure, you know, Does Ohio State end up only taking 2 wide receivers if McClellan goes somewhere else? I don't think so. I think the floor there is 3. So where else could they go to get a wide receiver? I'm not 100% sure on any of that yet. But given the wide receiver talent already on the team, and with Mylan Graham and Jeremiah Smith already in the class, again, I don't think like the success or failure of the recruiting class hinges purely on whether Jeremiah McClellan commits or not. Right. So obviously you want Jeremiah McClellan, you want to win that battle. Absolutely want him, but frosting on the cake at that point. They probably need a third linebacker. Not getting KVA stinks, but again, it's not like a make or break the class situation. So that's my thoughts on that. I think that's really all my thoughts. I think I'm going to go ahead and finish this episode out. Let me grab a band real quick. I was not thinking ahead, as I typically don't do. So tonight's ending music, we're going to kick it off to the Floorwalkers. Floorwalkers are a Columbus-based band. The name of this song is called So Strong. So once again, that is the Floorwalkers. The name of this song is So Strong. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, these are the Floorwalkers.